Hello, the Big D, ready to rumble on this Monday afternoon as I discuss one of my other hobbies and specialties. That would be hurricanes. Before I discuss a hurricane which will greatly impact Jamaica sometime tomorrow. Please subscribe, like, and share the Driving to the Top Productions and the Spunky Strickland Sports YouTube page. Also, check me out as Hulse and I check. Also, you can check out the Big D as Hulse and I discuss whether or not LSU head coach will be Lane Kiffin this evening, driving to the top production. But most everybody knows that I am a wait. Let me see. There. Most everybody knows that I'm a sports geek. I talk sports 24/7, 365. But I also love hurricanes. I don't know what it is. You know, I was 6 weeks old when Hurricane Andrew came through Florida in '92, and I met Brian Norcross, who helped guide Miami through that disaster. And then we experienced Andrew, not near as severe, in Naples. And since then, of course, been through most, if not all, the big ones in South Florida, or Southwest Florida. Charlie Francis, Gene 2004, Wilma 2005, and of course Irma 2017, which we lived on the other coast, and Hurricane Ian 2022. And to be honest with you, the storm in the Caribbean today brings back a lot of memories of Hurricane Ian. In fact, brings back memories of some other big storms. Once in a while you get a hurricane that honestly feels like one of those storms that will change history. And Hurricane Melissa looks like it's going to change history. And our thoughts and prayers with everyone in Jamaica and Cuba getting ready to deal with what could be the worst hurricane to ever hit Jamaica. If anybody saw the 2 o'clock update from the National Hurricane Center, and it's not good. It's awful. Let me see if I can share the screen. Hurricane tracker. There we go. So Hurricane Melissa Intermediate Advisory 25A. Hurricane 5 is from the National Hurricane Center. Category 5 Melissa moving slowly west-northwest, expected to northful late today. Catastrophic life-threatening winds, flooding, and storm surges suspected on Jamaica at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Location 16.5 north, 78.3 west, about 145 miles southwest of Kingston, or 325 miles southwest of Guantanamo. Maximum sustained winds, I can't believe I'm saying this, 175 miles an hour, moving west-northwest at 3, minimum central pressure 906 millibars, or 26.76 inches. I can't believe I'm saying this. 175, pressure 906, or 26.76 inches. Washington warnings, hurricane warnings in effect for Jamaica, Cuban provinces of Granada, Santiago de Cuba, Guantanamo, and Heligoland. A hurricane watch is in effect for the southeastern and central Bahamas, Turks and Caicos, with a tropical storm warning in effect for Haiti and the Cuban province of Las Tunas. I hope I'm saying that right. Hurricane watch means that hurricane conditions are possible within 48 hours, and a hurricane warning means hurricane conditions are possible within 36 hours. But generally, not much has changed from the 11 a.m. advisory, where all the information's upgraded, to the 2 p.m. advisory. The biggest changes are: one, the storm has strengthened to 175 miles an hour, and finally getting a westward movement at 3. So yeah, let me see if I can. And what's threatening to me? Ah, shoot, there. Wanted to share this time. What's unbelievable to me is that this storm, it's just looks like all the classic hurricanes we've seen, whether it be, Andrew, whether it be Katrina before it hit Louisiana, Rita, Wilma, Mitch, and frankly, I'm gonna get to the bottom of this. Jamaica's never seen anything close to this. People say, "Well, I went through Hurricane Gilbert in 1988." Let me tell you this: Hurricane Melissa is going to be 10 times worse than Gilbert. First off, Gilbert, even though Gilbert was an extremely devastating hurricane in 1988, believe it was a Cat 3 when it hit Jamaica. And Melissa, unless something miraculous happens, will hit with at worst top end Cat 4 or Cat 5 winds, maybe 160, 170 miles, 170 miles an hour tomorrow. And when you look at this beast heading to Jamaica this time, well, probably tomorrow morning, there's nothing we can do. I mean, there's honestly nothing we can do. And there's I've been in hurricanes. I've never traveled outside this country, but I know storm chasers, and I've interviewed a couple who have seen these storms. And let me show you this radar from Zoom Earth Storms about Hurricane Melissa. I use this quite a bit doing some of the storms that have impacted Florida. I think this is an unbelievable website that shows the danger of the storm. And remember, at 2 o'clock, the cone doesn't change. The cone changes at 5 o'clock. But let me read this to Jamaica. Do not venture out of your safe shelter. Catastrophic, life-threatening flash flood and numerous landslides, mudslides are likely today through Tuesday. Catastrophic winds in the eye will have the potential to cause total structure failure, especially in the higher elevation areas. Tonight and early Tuesday, this will result in an extensive infrastructure damage, long-lasting power and communication outages, and in communities, life-threatening storm surge, damaging waves are expected along the southern coast. Haiti and the DL, catastrophic life-threatening flash flood and landslides are expected, particularly southwestern Haiti and the DL. Haiti, there could be infrastructure damage and isolation of communities, maybe even some winds 40 to 50 miles an hour. Eastern Cuba, heavy rainfall with life-threatening, potentially catastrophic flash flooding and landslides suspected beginning today, likely tomorrow all night. Preparation should be rushed to completion, and then the southeastern Bahamas and Turks and Caicos, hurricane conditions, storm surge, heavy rain should follow the officials and be sure to have the preparation complete by tomorrow night. I mean, Hurricane Melissa's got that hurricane appearance we all love and dread at the same time. The eye wall is only, what, 10 miles? 10 nautical miles. And the NOAA and Hurricane and Air Force Reserve Hurricane Hunter planes found, what, 906, 908. Some fluctuation in the intensity could happen the next 24 hours. What may happen and what we hope happens is that the hurricane goes through some kind of an eye wall replacement cycle, which anything we can take, anything the good Lord takes off the top of the storm is wonderful, because if we can take off 20-30% of the storm, instead of 175, 140 would be better than 175. But an eye wall replacement cycle does come with its own issues. While a hurricane may weaken, the hurricane effects widen. So if Hurricane Melissa undergoes an eye wall replacement cycle, yes, the hurricane itself might weaken, but the hurricane itself will widen. So instead of hurricane force winds going out 30 or 40 miles, the hurricane force winds could go out 50 miles. The tropical storm force winds could go out 200 miles or 220 miles. And while in the immediate landfall zone, the top hurricane winds won't matter. For areas outside the eye wall, or potentially even areas in the eye wall, the eye wall replacement cycle will have an enormous impact on what happens in Jamaica. Because if, let's just say this hurricane makes a landfall here, that would push strong onshore winds with a monster storm surge and potentially deadly amounts of rain for Kingston. And and the storm's already moving west-northwest, and it'll probably be going in some kind of this direction here. I think there may be, I don't know if there will be a change to the cone at 5 p.m. Because honestly, the forecast is pretty much not changing. For Jamaica, the question is whether or not the storm goes here and there. And frankly, in the last right now the cone's a little irrelevant, because we generally know where the storm is going. The storm's not going to Grand Cayman, it's not going to Haiti, it's going right to Jamaica. It might go to Montego Bay, or might go to Treasure Beach or Kingston. But it's going to make landfall somewhere in Jamaica tomorrow. And no, by the way, from Always Glory, Melissa, now one of 20 Atlantic Basin hurricanes recorded history that reached at least 175 miles an hour. Recent ones: Milton, Dorian, Maria, Irma, Dean, Felix, Wilma, and Katrina. Oof. Brings back a few memories. I didn't go through all those storms, but I went through a few. Katrina, Wilma, Irma. I think I think Ian was 160 at some point before it hit Southwest Florida 3 years ago. But of course, Milton hit just up the road in what Siesta Key. So this has been 2025 has been a crazy year for hurricanes. I mean, 4 of the 5 hurricanes this year have been Cat 4 greater. Gabrielle, Humberto, Aaron, and Melissa. So while it might not be a ton of hurricanes, all the hurricanes are major ones. And, you know, I's are typically the danger letter, but I think M may be a close second. I think back to, particularly in the Caribbean, I remember Hurricane Mitch in 1998, devastating Honduras and Nicaragua, killing over 10,000 people. And then, of course, Hurricane Maria, which devastated Puerto Rico 8 years ago. And then, of course, last year with Milton just up the road, and now Hurricane Melissa set to wreck Jamaica. And, think of Jamaica, flatlands. Jamaica's got some mountains, particularly north of Kingston. And what we feel, just like in Puerto Rico with Maria, isn't just the 70 mile an hour winds, the storm surge that could be a couple meters high. I want to use meters in this case because I think the meters would give a better representation than feet like we're used to here. You know, if let's just say, I know that the Kingston airport is 3 meters or 10 feet above sea level. If the surge is 12 feet, the Kingston airport could be underwater. And even if there's not salt water, there could be fresh water from all the rain coming downhill. So Jamaica's problem is not going to be just the crazy wind. It's not going to be just the crazy surge or the rain. It's going to be all that plus a storm that the island has never seen before, at least in modern times. I mean, Gilbert was a Cat 3, but this storm's going to be more than a Cat 3. Question is, let me see. Boy, every picture I'm seeing on Twitter right now looks even scary. I mean, it's going more. I mean, yes, the storm's going more west than north, but it's starting to make that turn. And what often happens in these hurricanes, um, you know, we've all seen thunderstorms in any part of the world, whether it be Florida or Texas. But what may happen, and I think will happen in this storm, because this storm is so strong, there will be lightning in the eye wall of this Category 4, Category 5 behemoth. And frankly, if, and there could be lightning, even Montego Bay. I don't know if it'll be Montego Bay. Maybe, but there will be lightning throughout the eye wall of this storm. Now, everybody will say, what will happen going forward? Let me see if I can. let me see if I can get in. Yeah, I can get close. So right now the storm's projected to go more west, northwest, northwest, eventually turn more north, and maybe go back to the right. So it's supposed to make landfall probably, Hurricane Center's predicting it to be 160 mile an hour Category 5 storm. Frankly, 140, 150, 160. I mean, as Max Mayfield would say back in the day, you're 5 miles an hour is the difference. I mean, 140, 150, 160, difference between getting hit by an 18 wheel big. I mean, there's no real difference, especially when Jamaica's got infrastructure problems and buildings that are not really conducive to withstand 150, 160 miles an hour. I mean, look at that. Look at that. What could the wind gusts be tomorrow? I mean, I look at Alligator Pond as a potential landfall zone. Maybe it's east, maybe it's west, but Alligator Pond could be the bullseye for potential storm, because when this storm makes landfall, all that water will be pushed on land here, and anything here is basically a barrier island. So Alligator Pond is based on what we would see maybe in the Keys, and Alligator Pond could absolutely take the front eye wall of this monster, and look at Kingston even. Yes, Kingston's likely out of the danger zone for wind, but because of the hurricane, let me move this. Because of the hurricane going west of Kingston, all of these south-southeast winds will be pushed on land here. So the winds could be, pushing all that water in onto the island, and even a place like Kingston. I mean, million plus people live there. I generally am concerned about the water. I'm not as concerned about the wind, but could Kingston still get 15 inches of rain and plenty of storm tide flooding? Absolutely. And also, with all the flooding going downhill, Kingston not out of danger. Joan, by the way, that wind speed's the sustained wind. The gust, oh no. I mean, even the model's showing wind gusts is 79. I don't know if that's right or not, but May Pen, Alligator Pond, the 122. I mean, 123 would be a Category 3, and if that's 160, Alligator Pond could get hammered out. Who knows? This might end up going somewhere else tomorrow. This might go. Let me see. Darn it. Hold on. Multitasking, I might find it. Let me see if I can. Alligator Pond. Yeah, let me. Han, Jamaica. Let me see if I can do that. Yeah, so I will show that. So I just put up the potential weather for Alligator Pond, one of the potential storm hits tomorrow. And you see today, winds 43, gusts 82. Tomorrow, winds out of the north at 35, but gusts to 127 miles an hour. I don't believe that sustained wind is accurate, because if the storm comes anywhere near where it is, there will be higher winds than 35 miles an hour and gusts to 127. You know, um, if you think 127 miles an hour, I mean, that would be the equivalent of 200 and over 200k an hour. I mean, we've seen F1 cars go 300 and some 350. You imagine an F1 car going a couple 100k an hour, and that's not fun. And also, not just Alligator Pond, but I think of Treasure Beach. Potentially see wind gusts to 97 miles an hour, and Treasure Beach is west of the storm, west of Alligator Pond. So I think Treasure Beach is a potential landfall zone tomorrow, or 97 miles an hour. 97! I mean, staying wind to 50, but still, that doesn't seem right. Gusts could be 69. Alligator Pond's wind speed 64. But remember, sustained winds, what it will be at the surface for time. The winds could be higher, particularly at gusts and at elevation. And here, elevation's good, but there's a fine line between being too high and potentially endangering yourself from even higher winds. Now, but you will wonder, what about Kingston? Well, Kingston is likely to, let's see, I may have overdone this. Yeah, winds. Let me see if I can do this. There. If this path is correct, and storms could wobble, could go east, could go west, north, south, that's subject to change. But right now, Kingston could see winds 20, 30, which might be underdoing it a wee bit, and a wind gust to 83 miles an hour. What that will do, take down trees, power lines, potentially cut phone lines, and take off any poorly constructed roof. So while Kingston may not see the 100 and whatever mile an hour winds tomorrow, Kingston could still get crazy amounts of surge, rain, and some decent wind. And if this storm ever went back to the right, which I know about storms going back to the right, Kingston not out of danger. Now, I think Kingston's in a better position than 36 hours ago when it looked like Kingston was going to get a Cat 4 or Cat 5. So, let me see. as you can see, the storm, and the reason why I love the Zoom Earth websites because you can see the path of the storm compared to what the Hurricane Center's projected cone is, and you can see the storm is going more west. Yes, it's moving a bit north of due west, but this is still maybe a touch west. So the cone's fine. I think the cone. I don't really see a lot of change between now and 5 o'clock, which is the next big update. That's when not just the Hurricane Center, that's when the Hurricane Center will put out its next full advisory. Yeah, I wanted to do 3 hours. So yeah, it's just wobbling. It's moving west northwest, but it's still going more western. So it's better news for Kingston, but not so great news for Montego Bay. In fact, I can look up Montego Bay, Jamaica. Let me see. Yeah, so Montego Bay could potentially see wind gusts of 110 miles an hour. Now, while that's not 170, 110 is still borderline Cat 2 hurricane. And every mile the storm moves west would potentially bring more and more devastating impacts on the Montego Bay, which is a tourist attraction in Jamaica. If this hurricane went right over Montego Bay, it could be winds over 100 miles per hour. It could be rain. In fact, the rain is just now getting there, but it's still, look at that. Even some spits over Cuba. That's incredible. Potentially spits over Cuba, and I mean, I don't want to discount Cuba, but and I'm gonna fire it up for let me see if I can. Guantanamo. Yeah, sorry. Guantanamo Bay. Yeah, I don't want to underline. I don't want to forget about Cuba. But there could be, let me see, I can do Santiago de Cuba. See, 116-mile-an-hour wind gusts. This storm will be a major hurricane in Cuba. So, it's just freaky. But Montego Bay is potentially the bullseye tomorrow afternoon from the storm, particularly if it goes more west. And instead of impacting areas like Alligator Pond, impacts, Cambridge, doesn't sound like, Petersfield. I mean, look at Petersfield, 95 miles an hour. I mean, what's Cambridge? Cambridge. I'm like, that does not sound like a Jamaican name, but that's either near or there. 97. So, potentially some unbelievable forecasts. Let me see if I could show this one. Let me see satellite. Maybe getting. Yeah, it's still going more west than north, but it's still turned. But that storm looks. But that storm looks. Absolutely crazy. And what often happens in a storm like Melissa, there will be birds in the eye wall of a category of this kind of a hurricane. Let me see. Because of how strong the storm is, birds can't fly out. So birds will actually stay in the eye of a hurricane because the eye is the calm part around the storm. And guess what? Guess what? The birds will actually stay in the eye wall. And I've seen birds survive storms because birds can't literally fly under a Cat 5 hurricane. It's crazy to me that a bird would fly into the middle of a Cat 5 hurricane. That seems insane. What would happen? Let me see if I can. You know, does Hurricane Melissa remind me of storms? Yeah, it reminds me a lot of Maria, hit in Puerto Rico, Dorian hit in the Bahamas, 2019. You know, it's one of the strongest Atlantic storms of all time, 906 millibars. I don't know if it'll get to Wilma at 882. Let me see if I can find the list of lowest Atlantic hurricane pressures. Yeah, Wilma was 882. Let me see. And Wilma was 882. Let me see if I can. Gilbert was 888. The Labor Day hurricane, which hit the Keys, was 892. Rita was 895, just like Milton. Allen of 1980 was 899. Camille was 900. Katrina, Mitch, Dean, and then of course this storm's 908. So we're looking at a monster and a storm that people in Jamaica has never seen. So I can't believe I'm saying this. This is is this potentially the scariest? You know, I remember going through Hurricane Ian and thinking that was the worst storm I've ever seen. I've been through. And I mean, but honestly, we were out of the eye wall, but this storm feels much worse. Partly because the building code there is nowhere near what it is in Florida. And partly because Jamaica's got mountains and hills. And I mean, we even saw yesterday when Mount Dora flooded. Mount Dora. Not exactly. Not exactly. No, Mount McKinley. Um, I don't know what could be done. I honestly don't know what be done. I mean, Twitch is going. You know, the more I see this hurricane, the more I'm grateful that I live in the U.S. because I can't imagine what the Jamaican government and leaders are doing tonight. Because, you know, honestly, I think my advice would be if anybody is still in a house that is vulnerable to flooding, storm surge, or high winds, get out. Do so before dark because the weather conditions will deteriorate, the roads will become impassable, and there will be tree limbs, flying debris all over the place. And, we've seen pictures of Mexico Beach after Michael hit there. We've seen pictures of Puerto Rico after Maria hit there, or the Bahamas after Dorian, even Ian here. And with a storm like this, there could be what is it? What are they called? Mesovortices in the eye wall, which may or may not be as strong, if not stronger than the hurricane. But those tornadoes, those hurricane-like those tornadoes might help to increase the damage in the eye wall itself. So we're looking at just all kinds of bad weather. Hopefully, if anything, we get an eye wall replacement cycle that weakens this storm, because I'm fearful what Jamaica is going to look like tomorrow, Wednesday. And the biggest danger Jamaica will face might not be the hurricane itself, but what happens after the hurricane. You know, Jamaica's got a lot of crime issues, a lot of legal issues, and we've seen pictures of big cities, Andrew in Miami-Dade, and New Orleans after Katrina, where Lord knows what happens. And my biggest fear is that crime runs rampant. People are like, you know what? I'm going to rob, cheat, steal, do whatever I can to live. And, I have I know storm chasers in Jamaica. And a lot of these storm chasers bring video cameras and iPhones to document the storms. Well, guess what will happen after this storm? Somebody may think, you know what? I like that camera. I like that iPhone. I want it for myself. So, and in a storm this big, communication won't just be all for an hour or two. Communication might be all for 1 or 2 months, maybe longer. Some of these places will be uninhabitable. Because if the winds are anywhere near 175, we're looking at winds of 175, could projected to be 160, but really 140, 150, 160, doesn't matter. I won't even call this storm weakening. I call it evolving. Because if the winds drop, the storm's going to widen, which doesn't help anything. I mean, maybe if the storm goes westward, that's better for Kingston. But guess what? if the hurricane misses an area or is not as bad in one particular spot, somebody else is going to get the eye wall of a Category 4, Category 5 hurricane. Montego Bay could see winds 130. You look at, I don't know, I mean, you think of, I think of Hurricane Andrew. Yeah, I miss Miami. But Homestead was absolutely destroyed. And then, of course, Hurricane Andrew hit and miss New Orleans, but then, areas of Morgan City, Berwick, saw serious damage. And, it's, there's nothing more beautiful than the eye wall of a Category 4 or 5 hurricane, but there's nothing scary than the eye wall of a Category 4 or 5 hurricane. And we compare hurricanes and tornadoes, but a tornado is over a house for maybe a minute or two. A hurricane could be over a house for 10 hours. And let me see if I can look up Jamaica's building code. Jamaica built on Jamaica. Yeah, and Jamaica's been hit or affected quite a few times. Barrow nearly hit there last year. Gilbert, Ivan, Allen. They've been, but this could be, in fact, this probably will be the worst hurricane, not just in Jamaica, but maybe any Caribbean nation. It could rival what maybe damage wise. I don't know if it'll ever reach Maria, but I can't believe I'm saying this. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Well, if you're Jamaican, get through. Hopefully, the people who are in low-lying areas, homes that cannot withstand crazy winds, and flood-prone areas, get out and do so now, because this hurricane, when it hits, not if it hits, will be absolutely devastating and potentially life altering, life changing, and I'm sorry. And I also pray for the storm chasers. I know a couple storm chasers in Jamaica, and hopefully those guys are safe and are found somewhere sturdy enough to withstand the eye wall of a Category 4 or 5 behemoth. But when the storm comes through, the noise will be unbelievable. And I mean, and I also think of what could happen in Cuba tomorrow, because just because the storm hits Jamaica doesn't mean it won't hit Cuba. Now there could be more wind shear and dry air later in the week, which might save other Caribbean islands, maybe even Bermuda, potentially getting a hurricane later this week, close to the Halloween. But it's been a quiet, thankfully, knock on wood, it's been a quiet year quiet year for storms hitting the U.S. We've not seen anything, but that doesn't mean storms can be hurricane season over. I mean, we're nearing Halloween, and the worst hurricane of the season's about ready to make landfall in under 24 hours. So, Jamaica, we're with you. Thoughts and prayers are with you, and hopefully, and you know what? If anyone wants to ask me a hurricane specific question, you know what? Maybe you somehow have power and can find me, ask me a hurricane question. Hit me up, particularly in Jamaica. Hit me up at Dylan S Sports One, Spunky Spectrum Sports, Big D Podcast, and it's a different stream today. Usually I'd be talking football, the World Series, but I thought this was more important than any football game. Aaron Rodgers returned to Green Bay or whatever happened. So it's turned into what is a different stream and probably a more important stream as Hurricane Melissa heads to Jamaica. This is Dylan signing off for now.